The hardest knock I had ever heard came a little after 11 on a stormy Thursday night. It wasn't loud because someone wanted to be heard. It was quiet because someone had run out of strength. When I opened my front door, I saw my neighbor's wife standing on my porch, soaked by the rain, hugging herself against the cold. Tears mixed with the water on her face as she looked at me with frightened eyes and whispered the words that would change all of our lives forever. "Can I stay here tonight?" In that single moment, I realized this wasn't just another argument between a married couple. Something had broken deep inside their home, and whatever choice I made next would stay with me for the rest of my life. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, forgiveness, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us the world still has good people. My name is Nathan, and I lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. For nearly 5 years, my next-door neighbors, Michael and his wife Sarah, seemed like the perfect couple. They smiled while mowing their lawn, waved at everyone, and hosted summer barbecues where laughter filled the backyard. From the outside, they looked like the kind of family everyone admired. But walls can hide more pain than strangers ever imagine. Over the past several months, I had begun hearing arguments through the open windows late at night. They never lasted long, and the next morning both of them acted as though nothing had happened. I convinced myself it wasn't my business. Looking back now, I wish I had understood that silence often protects suffering instead of peace. That rainy night, I invited Sarah inside without asking questions. She looked exhausted, emotionally drained, and embarrassed that she even had to ask for help. I handed her a dry towel, made her a cup of hot tea, and gave her the guest bedroom. I didn't pressure her to explain anything because sometimes the greatest kindness is allowing someone to breathe before asking them to relive their pain. I barely slept that night, wondering if Michael would come pounding on my door, or if something even worse had happened before she arrived. The next morning, Sarah quietly shared what had been happening. Their marriage had slowly become trapped beneath financial stress, long work hours, and years of unspoken resentment. Michael had lost his temper more often than she had ever seen before. He had never seriously hurt her physically, but his words had become sharp enough to leave invisible scars that refused to heal. The previous night, after another painful argument, she finally realized she needed one evening away from the fear and shouting before either of them said something they could never take back. She wasn't asking me to choose sides. She simply needed one safe night where she could remember what peace felt like. Later that afternoon, Michael knocked on my door. His eyes were bloodshot, and the confidence he usually carried had completely disappeared. He wasn't angry. He looked broken. He admitted he had allowed stress to turn him into someone he no longer recognized. He said he had spent the entire night sitting alone in his kitchen, staring at the empty chair across the table, finally understanding that winning arguments meant nothing if he lost the person he loved most. He begged me to tell Sarah he wanted to apologize, but I refused to become the messenger. Healing wasn't something another neighbor could arrange. It had to begin with honesty and responsibility. Over the next several days, Sarah stayed with her sister while Michael began attending counseling on his own. Weeks passed without certainty. Some neighbors spread gossip, assuming divorce papers were already being prepared. Others pretended not to notice the empty driveway next door. I simply kept mowing my lawn, waving when either of them passed by separately, hoping that whatever happened would lead them toward healthier lives, together or apart. Almost 3 months later, I noticed something different. Michael wasn't just saying he had changed, he was living differently. He volunteered at the local food pantry, attended counseling every week, reduced his overtime hours, and started rebuilding trust one honest conversation at a time. Sarah didn't rush back because apologies alone cannot repair years of pain. She watched carefully to see whether his actions matched his promises. Slowly, they began taking walks together again. Then they attended marriage counseling as a couple. Their smiles returned little by little, not because life became perfect, but because they finally learned that love cannot survive without humility, patience, and respect. One autumn evening, they invited me over for dinner. Before we ate, Michael stood up with tears in his eyes and thanked me for opening my door on the worst night of their marriage. He said that if Sarah hadn't found one place where she felt safe, their relationship might have ended forever. Sarah smiled softly and admitted that staying at my house hadn't saved their marriage by itself. What truly saved it was finally accepting that broken people must be willing to seek help instead of hiding behind pride. That night reminded me that being a good neighbor isn't about fixing someone else's problems. Sometimes it simply means offering a safe place when the world feels unbearable. We never know when a small act of compassion becomes the turning point in another person's life. One open door, one warm meal, and one night of safety can become the beginning of healing that lasts for years. Before we reach the end of this story, please leave a comment with the words "Kindness opens doors" if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can change someone's future. As time passed, Michael and Sarah rebuilt not only their marriage but also their friendship. They laughed again, celebrated anniversaries with genuine gratitude, and often reminded others that asking for help is never a sign of weakness. Watching them heal changed me too. I stopped assuming people were fine simply because they smiled in public. Instead, I learned to pay closer attention, offer kindness without judgment, and never underestimate the power of simply being there when someone has nowhere else to go. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring more stories of hope, compassion, and second chances to people who need them most. Remember, sometimes the greatest miracle begins with nothing more than opening your door to someone who needs a little light in their darkest night.